What's up, people? What's up, people? What's up, people? It is your boy MM2K back again with a special episode of SSC Podcast. This is the first time ever that SSC Podcast has back-to-back episodes Wednesday and Thursday, and we're doing this for a special occasion, a very special occasion. But before we get into all that, let me shout out the chat that is here already. Thank you very much for all of your support and for being here. This is going to be a special one-on-one interview, and a lot of questions are going to be answered. I think just from the conversation I had before we went live, I think you guys are going to really enjoy this one. But first and foremost, shout out to Victor Del Maestro, MJ Parks. We got Twisted Barber in the house. You know what, Twisted Barber? You've been such a supporter. You've earned your wings. Oh, hold on. Oh, I did something wrong. I was supposed to make sure that you earned your wings. Hold on. Here we go. We're going to get this right. Add as moderator. Okay, sorry, Twisted Barber. My apologies. Oh, goodness. But you earned your wings today. So, Twisted Barber is here, Charles Aran, and your mama knows. Liam McGee, Ninja Guy X, Spartanian, previously DRE. What's going on? Next we go hard. Project Storm is in the house. And 1030 Media Group, my homie Ralph. Good to see all you guys. Twisted Barber, I'm so sorry. I hit the wrong button, but your comment should be back up in a little bit. Oh, hold on. Let me see. Hi, user on this. No. Okay. Okay, you should be unhit now. All right, guys. So here's what's going on. All right. Enough from me. Enough babble from me. And definitely tweet this out. Let people know that we are live. Because, again, this is going to be a big, big interview. Let me do this real quick, too. Because I want to let our good friends know here that we are live as well. Bada boom, bada bing. Okay, so thank you for joining us for episode 72 as we talk with Topher, aka Christopher Turner. I'm gonna explain that to you guys in a little bit, but we want to thank Topher for joining us for this special episode. For those of you who don't know who he is, he's the individual behind the self-made Mandalorian game footage that was made and highlighted to look as a retail game in development. Now, I got a lot of attention and it turned a lot of heads, and an interest for most part here for the image that made it appear as if it was in development for Stadia alongside wherever else. Now, the community response once the truth was revealed was varying. We did what was equivalent to like a mini town hall on Twitter, aka Spaces, and the responses were surprising, which really prompted this interview. However, what was common throughout that whole mini town hall was everyone had questions. So we plan to get those answered today. With no further ado, I want to introduce to everyone Mr. Christopher Turner, aka Topher. Topher, how are you doing today, my friend? Good, great. Everybody, let us know if you can hear Topher okay. If I need to turn them up at all. Now, can you explain where the nickname Topher came from? Mm-hmm.
How I'm known.
Okay. You know what they said they couldn't hear you. All
They
right,
say they can't hear me.
can't hear. Okay, we don't hear them. Okay, we got them. I think we fixed the audio. What's something going on, funky going on in Discord? I'm sorry, Chris. Can you go through that again? The pain of having your name chopped up. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. And so yeah, so I've always enjoyed my my first name, Christopher. It always sounded very regal to me, very proper.
Mm-hmm.
And I work with these guys. And they're still saying they can't hear me. Oh, now they hear. Now they hear.
Now we can hear them. Okay, we can't.
Okay.
Hold on. I think they can hear you now. Now we can hear Chris. Okay, good.
Yeah,
I'm
okay,
sorry.
good.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And so yeah, so I work with these two guys who like just about everybody, shortens people's names, and they would shorten mine to Chris, and I kept trying to correct them. I kept trying to fill in the other half of my name. So they'd say Chris, I'd say Topher, and they'd say what? And I'd say it's the whole thing, Chris Topher, and they'd be like, oh, Topher. And then that just kind of stuck, and so yeah, there you have it. Now I'm Topher.
Gotcha. I thought that was interesting because I'm like, do you want to be referred to as Chris or Christopher or whatever? And you're like, no, Topher. And I'm like, oh, you got to explain that one to the chat.
You know what? I've kind of liked it because being born when I was in the 70s, it was one of the most popular names for like 15 years. And so
okay.
I've met so many people with my name. In fact, even in the game industry, I've known 3 other Chris Turners, and we kept getting credit for each other's games and stuff. It was kind of bizarre.
Hopefully it worked out in your favor.
Yeah, well, as soon as Topher came about, then yeah, it all straightened itself out.
Exactly. I like it. I said it got a nice little ring to it. Now,
appreciate it.
First and foremost, Topher, again, thank you for joining us. I want to start simple, though, because people have questions.
Yes.
We talked about beforehand how there were people that were impressed, but some people, they have some ire. So we're gonna address everything. And you've been so kind and so forthcoming and saying first and foremost that you want to be transparent about all this. So yeah. I appreciate that. But let's get to know Topher a little bit more. Topher the gamer. How were you introduced to gaming altogether? What was the first thing that you played?
Oh man, when I was born, my dad had a Magnavox Odyssey.
Oh wow, okay.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yes.
It didn't last long. I think it was in the house before I was old enough to get my hands on it. And that got replaced with a ColecoVision which died on us, and my dad replaced that with an Atari 2600, and it's been a long chain of gaming since then. When I was a kid, I remember making forts out of my
Hmm.
Atari cartridges. I had that many of them.
Gotcha.
And so yeah, no, I was just kind of, I was born into a household where games were just, as prevalent as TV was, and so it was just kind of a way of life.
Awesome. I remember making those forts too, Pac-Man and
Yeah.
Keybert and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Good old days, good old days. So, once introduced to gaming, what were your favorite games and platforms from that era?
Oh man, let's see. So I love, there was a 2D top-down game called Berserk.
Yes.
And man, there was something about the sound that that game made that
Hmm.
just, oh, it was, yeah. I played a lot of that. Pitfall 2. And then of course, getting into the NES, it was anything I could get my hands on. I played games that were good and games that were bad. I played, if it was a game, I wanted to give it a go.
Awesome. Would you say that NES was your favorite platform from that era?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I played exclusively on the NES once it was out.
Okay.
Um, until the Sega Genesis came out.
Yeah, same
Um,
here. Yep.
once the Genesis came out, and really Mortal Kombat was what did it. The
Mm.
fact that Mortal Kombat on the SNES had sweat, but the Genesis had the blood. It
Hmm.
was like, yeah, that's what I'm playing. That's what I'm doing.
That's where we're going. Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and then I turned into an idiot with with Sega, and I bought the 32X, and I bought the CD, and I
Oh
bought every
man.
little doodad that they had. I would buy.
Hmm.
But yeah, I kind of went that route, and to be honest, I haven't been back in Nintendo's court since the NES.
Gotcha.
Um, yeah, just haven't nothing. There's been nothing from them that has drawn me back to their
Yep.
platform.
Yep. No, same here. I fell in
Yeah.
love with the Genesis. I didn't go to 32X route, but I can understand where that came from because once the Genesis
Mm.
came out and it got a stranglehold of your gamer soul,
Oh yeah,
everybody wanted all the peripherals and they benefited. Well, they somewhat benefited from that, from selling you all that
yeah.
junk. So I can
Oh
get
yeah,
it.
for sure.
Definitely. Now, you're in the game industry. Explain us, how did you get into gaming, into developing and the things that you're doing now?
Okay, so this is kind of a funny story. It started off with a company by the name of Laser Quest.
Okay.
So Laser Quest is they're all over the place in North America. You get the vest on, and you get the little laser guns, and you run around a maze shooting each other.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so this company, I worked for them for about a decade as their senior artist, as their lead artist. And what would happen is every time they'd open a new location, I would get flown out with a couple of buddies, and we would paint up that location. Do the kids' party rooms and do the maze, all with that black light paint that glowed in the dark and everything. And so I did this for about a decade, and September 11th happened. And
Okay.
when that happened, the U.S. stopped letting us Canadian artists in. We were told we were a threat to the American way of life.
Yeah.
And essentially what they meant was that there was nothing unique about the skill set that we possessed that required this company to send Canadians into the U.S. And they were said, why don't you just hire local American artists to make these places up?
Yeah.
And Laser Quest, they didn't really want to do it, but it wasn't so much of a question as a demand from the
Hmm.
U.S. government, and so that was it, man. The game just or the job just kind of up and vanished.
Wow.
Um, at that point, I'd been doing it for about a decade. I'd artwork in 56 cities in North America. I'd been all over, and I was trying to figure out, what am I going to do now? Like, how do I take painting mazes and setting up all of these areas in order to facilitate gameplay for people? How do I turn that into something else?
Yeah.
And the first thing that came to me was actually to make a video game. I was like, what I should do is I should make a Laser Quest video game, an arcade cabinet, and we could put one in every franchise. And the levels that you play could be each of the different locations, each franchise. And I was like, well, I'm already an artist. I just got to figure out how to make game art. And so I went to school. I went to a private school here in Toronto. Figured out what I needed to do to get game art on the go, and I got hired. I was in my second semester. I think I was about 6 months in, and I got hired by a studio. I got picked up as quality assurance or a tester,
Okay.
and so I started doing that. Um, that was a lot of fun, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. Like it wasn't artwork. It was fun to play games and get paid for it. And the time that was going on was also a brilliant time to be getting into the industry because it was around the birth of Xbox Live.
Yeah.
And
Oh wow.
so yeah, so we would release these games at the studio that I was at. We'd release these games, and then my job would then become turned. Um, my job essentially turned into go online and make sure people have someone to play with.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Okay.
Xbox Live back then, like there was nobody online.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we made a ton of shooters. They were all these kind of realistic shooters, but I don't want to say I don't know. Realistic's not the right word. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're not Call of Duty. They're more um, budget kind of games. These are the types of games that were out for like $30 when they were brand new.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, we would get a bunch of veterans playing them, and we'd log in and play with these guys and have a lot of fun and stuff. And eventually, when I graduated from this program, I went to the studio and I said, "Listen, guys, I really love working here. I love being a part of this team and whatnot. But I'm an artist, and I don't want to just do this for a living. I want to get to the point where I'm creating the artwork in these games." And the company then told me, "Well, listen, um, this is kind of not public information, but we're about to start our own devs team, and if you want, we can pull you on as one of the guys."
Oh wow. Okay.
So that's it. Like the day I graduate, they announced to
That's
the
awesome.
studio. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, like I didn't have to look for work or anything. It
Yeah.
just
That's you.
fell in
Oh
my
my
lap.
gosh.
So and to make it all even better, our dev team was 5 guys when we started. It ended up getting really big. We ended up with a team of 120, 130 around the end. But the initial 5 of us, um, I was blown away at the resume that some of these other individuals had. So the character artist that I was working with, he was the guy who made the very first Sam Fisher. He was the
Okay.
guy that like
Oh
the
wow.
first time you ever saw Sam Fisher in a game, he's like, yeah, yeah, I did that. And I was like, where did you get Sam Fisher from? He's like, oh, that's easy. It's George Clooney and me.
Oh
And it was like,
wow.
what? And so yeah, we'd be out of bars on weekends and stuff, and he'd be like, did you know that Sam Fisher is me and
Yeah.
George Clooney?
Yeah.
And so
And
yeah, it
this
was
guy.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then yeah, there were guys from EA and programmers who had worked on the Warriors at Rockstar, and all of these guys that had this pedigree of game development. And there's little old me with I worked at Laser Quest, but they saw something in me and kept me around. And yeah, I was there essentially until that studio folded, and I started looking for something else at that point.
Okay. Um. So that I guess somehow you go into the hot tub time machine and move forward, and now you're teaching. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So please don't tell us where, because there's I love our listeners, but there might be some weirdos here and there that whatever. Don't
Yep.
don't don't let us know where, but what is it that you teach, and how give us a little bit of those dynamics.
So I teach at 2 different colleges in the Toronto area.
Okay.
In total, I think I've been at about 4 or 5 colleges. I kind of lost count.
Yeah.
Um, and one college specifically deals with game design, and so we're teaching people to be designers there. And one college is an art program, so it's a game art program. And at the game art program, I teach 2 different classes. I teach the introduction to polygon modeling, and
Hmm.
so all the newbies and getting their hands on stuff for the first time and teaching them how to make some things. And then the other class I teach is the final modeling class that they have in the program, and that is teaching them how to do characters.
Okay. Now, I know in your video where your explanation video after you quote unquote came clean and said, "Hey, look,
Yeah.
guys, this isn't a real retail product as of yet."
Mm.
Because you never know what the future holds. Have any of your students talked to you, have contacted you since you've come clean with that video, and what have some of them said if they have?
So this is something that no one knows here
Okay.
about this little project is
Yep.
that my students so when the pandemic hit and we
Hmm.
started teaching remotely, I set up a Discord server for my students.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure that no one got left behind, that no one got screwed over by something that was out of their control. And so I set up this Discord server and said, at any point in time, anytime during the day, if you need me, I've got my phone on me, or I'm sitting around the house. It doesn't take me long to go and answer something.
Hmm.
And so I set up this Discord server, and because I've taught at so many different colleges, word kind of spread that I had this thing, and it jumped up to about 200, a little over 200 users now.
Oh,
And
wow. Okay.
and so these are all former students and current students. So I've got
Hmm.
everybody from people that were there from last September to people that graduated 10 years ago. And it's nice because I've been teaching long enough that some of my former students are now in pretty good positions at some pretty high end studios. A lady that I taught is now the head creative director at a studio, and I've got students that are doing 3D modeling and doing animation, and they've all been at some pretty good places where a lot of people have played their games. And so that's kind of nice to have those former students come back now into this Discord server and be able to talk to um, the current students about, like, don't worry, like, things that there's light on the horizon, and things get better, and don't
Yeah,
give up.
that is good. Yeah.
And so in terms of whether or not any of my students knew anything,
Hmm.
this whole Discord server was well aware. So I'd been showing it off on my Discord server for quite a long time,
Right.
and it was it was kind of funny because I would set up some really funny things. I did when I did the AI on the astromech. It was the first time I'd ever created any kind of AI, and
Yep.
so what I did was I put a camera on him, and I just let the game play, and I live streamed it. And so it was just an astromech, like booting it around the level.
Hmm.
And I just let it go all night. And I was like, anybody want to watch, go right ahead. I just want to make sure he doesn't get stuck anywhere.
Yeah.
And and I would get up in the morning, and there'd be half a dozen people watching this little astromech just cooking around this level. And
Oh.
so yeah, they've been well aware. I mentioned in the explanation video as well that um, Mando was created as a demo project for my students, the character himself,
Yeah.
not the game.
Yeah.
So in teaching my character class, I always make somebody along the way with them, and yeah, Mando was just the one that I made this semester, and so they've been kind of watching him grow and develop all along the way.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, and I kind of now we're going to segment into the tough question section, right? Uh, so, but no, this a lot of this is impressive. I just wanted to put your background out there, get people
Yep.
to know Topher, to see that hey, this is a guy that bleeds blood like the rest
Yeah.
of us, and regardless of your questions on the methodology of how this was introduced, just to
Mhm.
get people to understand
For sure.
your background a little bit better. So that was one of my first questions in the tough question section was I know you've explained before how this all started, but
Yep.
what kind of led to you starting this Mandalorian game, and like you said, right, it was a project. It was a project for your students at first, correct?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. And
So
did I
yeah,
get you right though that you said that I mean it's in a playable state where other people played it or they just watched it?
I haven't let anybody else play it.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah.
once I got the idea of letting this out, like it was leaked footage to
Yeah.
gain some notoriety.
Uh-huh.
I was terrified of letting anyone play it because I thought for sure they would like, hey, check out what my teacher made.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it,
Yeah.
cat's out of the bag.
Absolutely. And then on top of that, I know there would probably be cease and desist concerns with that after. You know what I mean? After that, I would assume. I don't know. I mean,
You
maybe
know
you
what?
could put it.
I was hoping for a cease and desist letter. I told my wife, she was like, "You're not worried you're gonna get sued?" And I was like, I'm not making any money. They can't
Yeah,
sue
yeah.
me.
Just so you could
And
stop
I
it and
told
yeah.
her, like, I get a cease and desist letter, and I'm gonna frame that and put it up on the studio wall behind me. Um, but yeah, no, nothing came from them at all.
Got you. So help a lot of people that are confused about this, and I have some questions as well. Help us
Yep.
understand, why did you decide, hey, I'm going to disguise this as a retail game in development?
Yeah, so the idea to do that was something that had always kind of been percolating in the back of my head.
Mm-hmm.
I've been talking with some really good friends that I have in the industry about our end game.
Yeah.
You don't retire from the game industry. You get to the point where you're just too old to put up with it anymore. And so a lot of us around my age, we've been talking about what do we do? What do you get to? There's no pension. You're not going to get a big payout at the end. And it had always occurred to me that my end game would be YouTube.
Yeah.
I would love to. I mean, I really love teaching.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be really cool to be able to put together videos on a weekly, bi-weekly basis and have that kind of supplement my income to the point that I don't have to teach as much as I do. I'm only going to get older as time goes by.
Yeah.
And so a lot of things have always percolated from that, wanting to figure out the end game and how to, get YouTube to a state where the work that I'm doing starts paying back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a few ideas that I've had in the past, which I've worked on and then just kind of let them fall to the wayside, have been things like taking an old '80s cartoon that I loved and remaking the intro like it was a game with today's graphics.
Okay.
And I worked on that for a year or so with a couple of buddies, and got to a point where somebody beat me to the punch. Somebody actually released a remake of a Thundercats intro.
Oh, yeah, that would be cool.
Right when that came out, and dude got all these views, and I was like, "You, dude, that's my views you're taking." Um, and I realized when that his video came out that I couldn't continue working on the one that I was working on because it was going to seem like I had just taken his idea and ran with it.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, I got to do something else." And like I said in the explanation video, it wasn't until I ran around as Mando in this level for the first time that I was like, "Oh man, I gotta make this a game." It was just fun. It was one of those things that um, I've been a Star Wars fan since I was a kid, and it was kind of like seeing a childhood dream come to fruition. Even though it wasn't a real game and it wasn't something was ever going to get published or anything like that. But it was the fact that I got to, and I've run around as my character before in games, but there was something different about this. It was fun, and I enjoyed working on it. And so I decided what I was going to do was try and um, maximize its visibility online. And I figured the best way to do that was going to be to try and make people think that it actually was something legitimate.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of making it look like a leak came after.
Okay.
Originally, what I was going to do was try and make it look like a trailer. And I was going to drop it around, when Disney has their D23, when they have when they release all of the stuff that they're working on. I
Yeah.
thought if I just put a video out around the same time, it might get lost in the shuffle and
Mm-hmm.
people might just think it's real.
Okay.
Um, and then, yeah, by the time I was done working on this thing, there was nothing. I didn't even realize that Gamescom was going on when I released this thing.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I was just looking for like something to help it get lost in the shuffle. And when I didn't have anything official from Disney that was coming, in fact, the most recent date I got was November 16th. Something big is, I guess, coming from Disney. And I was like, maybe I'll wait, maybe I'll sit on it till November 16th. And the thought of waiting that long before showing it to anyone, I was just like, I can't do that. And so I was like, you know what I'll do? I'll make it look like a leak. And I was bouncing ideas off my students about like, hey, what do you think about doing this? And what do you think about doing that? And yeah, that's where the idea of like just making it look like a leak and having the shaky cam style of footage to add to its authenticity.
Hmm.
I wasn't sure my little home studio here would fool anyone. I actually, to be honest, I didn't think the game was gonna fool anyone. Um, I mean, I gotta tell you, man, it was sweet. A lot of the things that people have said about this thing,
Hmm.
that I worked on. This was me alone for 4 months, and most of it was me trying to figure out what the hell I was doing. And so to have people say, that, and people on both sides of the fence, but some of the nice things that have been said have been really, really nice. And so, yeah, that's kind of where it kind of came from, was just wanting to get eyes on it, wanting to get as many people's opinion of it as possible.
All right. Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you this, Topher. I looked at the original footage with everyone else, the
Mm,
doctored one, the one where it looked like it was in a secret laboratory in Area 50, or not, or Area 41 somewhere, right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
then I watched your explanation video where you told everyone, "Hey, look, I'm going to put the raw footage out there,"
Hmm.
and man, I can tell you, there are conversations in the community about the methodology and how you release this, which I'll
Hmm.
ask, further than that. But I'm going to tell you that is impressive as hell. It is so impressive
I
that
thank you.
and you did all this yourself. I mean, you got help as far as like what direction to go on certain things, but you programmed this yourself.
So I don't do any code myself. I've been using a
Gotcha.
lot of Unreal has
Tools.
a
Yeah,
yeah, they
a lot
have
of
they
tool
have a
sets.
visual scripting language. So you kind of
Gotcha.
like wire these nodes together. And so I did a lot of stuff that way. I taught a scripting class for a little while, and we would use Unreal in that class. And so I've got a pretty good head for logic. I before I did any game art when I was in high school, I used to do some light programming, but I wouldn't consider myself a programmer by any stretch of the imagination.
Gotcha.
But yeah, this was all me, and it was 4 months. There were a couple of packages that I used that I leveraged from the marketplace. Um, I had contacted several animators,
Hmm.
trying to get someone to collaborate with me on this,
Hmm.
because I knew my animations were going to be the thing that gave me away. And so I was reaching out to anybody I had, and the problem is that most buddies I have are working at a studio somewhere doing animations for games, and the last thing they want to do is like, okay, 5 o'clock's here, I'm going home to
Hmm.
do animations for free for some dude.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I was kind of left on my own, and I tried to do the best I could with using a system that granted, I'm pretty impressed with how well the system worked, with the blending of animations and how smooth I was able to get Mando to move around and stuff. But yeah, no, it was just 100% me work plugging away on this thing. um that video that I posted, that was a screen grab. I wish I had recorded it in 4K.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
actually in 1080p.
Yeah.
And it's because I didn't bother checking OBS, man, before I started recording. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I record and start going. Um, and uh, and that is running on my PC. It's not an exe. I actually just hit run in the engine and let it go.
Oh, okay.
And so
Okay.
yeah, like I never made a proper build of the game or anything like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, it was just me playing on my PC. And so what I did was I recorded it with OBS. And one of the reasons that second video of the gameplay was so important to me was that a lot of people were suggesting that I had, with Adobe Premiere or After Effects or something, doctored the video,
Hmm.
and I didn't. It, it
Yeah.
it literally is, that is just the game running.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, no, it's everything that you see there is, and so that's why that second video was so important.
Absolutely.
I see Liam McGee here saying that they need that 4K.
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
was just gonna say, like, put it out there. Why not?
yeah, I'm not opposed to taking another run through it and recording it at proper 4K.
Yep.
It
Put it
runs
out
so
there.
there's a couple of things about this thing
Mm-hmm.
that I also feel like I need to come clean about.
Mm-hmm.
That loading screen.
Yeah.
I had to fake that loading screen. I
Okay.
built this thing, like I said, I built this thing myself. It actually doesn't have any loading. When you exit the menu and you hit play, the game just boots into the game and plays. There was no loading,
Okay.
and I was
All
like,
right, I
"Oh
get you.
man, yeah, it's not going to look real without a loading screen." And
Mm-hmm.
so I ended up creating that image and then delaying the game. I put a wait, and so the game, you
Okay.
hit the button and it just waits. I think I made it 7 or 8 seconds,
Okay.
and then it boots in. So yeah, so that even the loading screen is nonsense. It doesn't actually exist. The
So
game
you
plays from
created
the
like a splash screen, pretty much,
yeah,
and
yeah, just
okay,
something, and that's where those Beskar ingots came from.
gotcha,
And so yeah,
gotcha. So as impressive as that was, I mean, some of us looked at, we were looking at everything with our monocle, particularly the Stadia community. We look at everything, you know what I mean? We were looking at it with our monocles and diagnosing. Well, the hand is this way, that way, and you've admitted to that. You said, look, I'm not the expert of all experts on everything and all animations and stuff like that.
for
So
sure.
therefore, but this is still super impressive. It being a one man job, even if you are using tool sets. With that
Mm,
said, with how impressive this came, and I know you had to look at it at the back end and say, "Oh my gosh, yeah, this does look pretty good," and it does look impressive. A lot of people in the community asked Topher, why not just promote this as a concept instead of getting people hyped up and thinking it was an actual game? Why not promote it as a concept instead?
So there's a real easy answer to that,
Uh
and
huh.
I've actually heard in a couple of your other podcasts people saying like, why not just come clean from the get go?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for this is the visibility of this, is people taking notice of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the best example I have of that is that the leaked quote unquote footage was the fourth video of this game that I put on my YouTube channel,
Oh wow.
and no one watched the other three. I
Mm-hmm.
made them private when I dropped the leak footage because I knew the other videos would give it away.
Uh huh.
Um, but yeah, no, those other videos, I think it was at 13 views on one of them.
Okay.
Now,
Gotcha.
granted, and and I get this.
Mm-hmm.
My videos are long-winded, and they go
Mm-hmm.
on and they go on and they go on.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm like I do it for my students who are learning how to do this stuff, and seeing things more in depth is good for them.
Yeah.
But having um your regular everyday Joe who's just interested in seeing something about a video game, watch hours and hours and hours of video isn't going to happen, especially on YouTube. I put out a video about the next character that I'm going to make that was a 12-minute video, and I got 3 or 4 messages from people going, "Oh man, 12 minutes? You want me to watch 12 minutes?" I was like, "Man, most of my videos are 4 hours. You can't do
Yeah.
12 minutes."
So yeah.
And so yeah, and so I did these other Mandalorian videos that just didn't get any views. No one was paying attention to them, and no one was really interested. And so that's why this leaked format was kind of important to me. Is that um, it's in my head, that
Mm-hmm.
is what was going to solidify it as something that people would pass around. Hey, did you see this? And
Yep.
and give it to a buddy, and it's how things go viral. Whereas if you picture a bunch of people around a water cooler going, "Hey, did you see this guy worked on this thing by himself?" It doesn't have the same ring, and it doesn't have the same kind of ability to go as viral as the leak did.
Gotcha. Okay.
Um, I do gotta say, and this is part of where that explanation video came from,
Mm-hmm.
is I did not expect people to get as hurt by this as
Mm-hmm.
they did.
Yeah.
I just thought people would be like, "Oh, cool, a Mandalorian game," and to get messages from people that are like, "You crushed my soul," and it's like, "Oh man, that is not what I want."
Yeah.
I just wanted to show you something cool. It's never been my intent to hurt anyone.
Yeah. Yep. Now, in that vein, I'm glad you brought that up because this is a perfect segue to my next question. In that vein, now we talked about this a little bit off air, but you have many publications and content creators that are upset with you, and they're upset because, in their words, they reached out to you directly. They asked you if this was legit. They say that you assured them that it was. What is it that you have to say about that, or you would like to say to them?
I was very careful. I
Mm-hmm.
knew people were going to be reaching out to me. The very final snippet of the video where the Stadia UI comes out. Um, I had to Photoshop it a little bit in order to get my kids' names off there because my kids' Stadia accounts were on there,
Yeah.
and I didn't want anybody reaching out to them. My nephew was on there as well. Ditto. Didn't want anybody reaching out to my nephew. But I left my name there, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I'd gladly anybody wants to ask me about this thing by all means, and I
Let's do
accepted
it.
every friend request on Stadia that came in.
Yep.
It wasn't until the video really started picking up that I realized that my email address is nowhere on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And so a bunch of people were not able to get me through there, but I had a lot of media contacting me through Stadia.
Mm-hmm.
And even I found this really funny that there was some video game media that didn't have a Stadia account and got a
Mm-hmm.
buddy to sign up.
Wow.
It's like, yeah, listen, you sign up and ask this dude this question
Are you
for me.
serious? Oh my god! Yeah,
And I was
this
like,
is
are you
golden for our last part too. But did you? I mean, did you guys hear that? The media would not sign up or didn't have a Stadia account. Chat. Listen to this. They wouldn't have a Stadia account, or they didn't have one. They wouldn't create one themselves. So what they did is they went to a buddy like Stadia's the bubonic plague and said, "Hey, you already got this thing, so why don't you reach out to this guy?" I'm sorry, I just had to interject there. Go ahead, Topher. My
Yeah, no,
bad.
no, no. It blew my mind, man. I really? It's a free account. Why would? Okay, whatever. But anyway, anyone who had asked me anything, whether it was on Stadia or if they'd got a hold of me, I know because I'd closed the comments down on those videos that people weren't able to get a hold of me there.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of my other videos started getting hit with comments about the Mandalorian, and so I was trying to answer absolutely everyone.
Yep.
But with also wanting this thing to go viral, I didn't want to let the cat out of the bag. I didn't want to tell everyone that it was just something I had made.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a prepared answer that I gave anyone that asked me if it was
Mm-hmm.
legit or not. And that answer was, oh, I can tell you this. I have been in the industry for 20 years. I've been teaching game design and game development to students for 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
I have been making games since I got into the industry, the last of which came out last year. Um, and this is actually my Stadia account. Like
Mm-hmm.
those were the things that I told
That you
everybody. And
said, yeah.
yeah, a couple of publications put those exact words in,
Oh wow.
and some of them were like, no, he refused to comment. And I was like, I didn't refuse nothing.
Yeah.
I might
Yeah.
have beat around the bush a lot, but I didn't refuse anybody to comment.
I can
And
validate
so,
that. Not to cut you off, Topher, but for the
yep.
people listening, I can validate that. I know a couple of friends that did reach out to you, and
Mhm.
that was the exact response that he sent. I just couldn't say anything at the time because I was shown that information in confidence,
Mhm.
and they were like, "Hey, look, if I and wisely though." And I'll speak to this on the back end of our interview too when we talked a little bit more Stadia, but wisely though, the people that I know that reached out to you, they said, "I hope this guy's not jiving us. I hope this is real. I'm not sure." They didn't take it, as golden yet. You know what I'm saying? Because it wasn't a solid yes or a no. You know what I'm saying? So I just
Sure.
wanted to throw that out there.
Yep. And of all the media who did pick this up,
Mm-hmm.
it was all Stadia media,
Yeah.
with the exception of one.
Okay.
There was one, and this happens to be a podcast that I listen to on the regular,
Hmm.
and these guys picked it up, and I was nerding out listening to these guys talk about me,
Yeah.
which is Colin Moriarty.
Oh, Colin picked it up. Okay. Oh, no,
Colin
that is
picked
right
it up.
because that's how we found out about it. Yep, you're right.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So Colin picked it up, and he spoke about it on his podcast with Chris Raygun,
Yep.
Sacred Symbols, which is
Yep.
a PlayStation specific thing,
Yep.
and this is one of the reasons why I listen to Colin more than I listen to just about anybody else. Is well, the dude is a Sony guy, and he's
Hmm.
everything's Sony for him.
Yep.
The fact that he brings on Chris Raygun, who's an Xbox gamer, and the
Yeah.
fact that he would do something like pick up My Little Story,
Hmm.
which was all about Stadia, something that he doesn't give a rat's ass about.
Hmm.
That shows me that he's got a little bit more integrity than anybody else.
Yeah.
And that's why I was nerding out when dude picked it up, and the three of them on his podcast talked about it for a good half hour, and I was like, well,
Yeah.
this is awesome.
Yeah. Colin doesn't shy away from diverging opinions, and I definitely respect that about him.
For sure, for sure. But yeah, everybody else, every other contact that I had has been either through some kind of Stadia publication. There was a gentleman who contacted me who was part of Best Buy.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I was that one really confused me. I was like, Stadia doesn't need you to buy anything, and you work at a place that expects people to buy things. I was like, how does that work? How do you get tied in
Well,
with Stadia?
you know what? Best Buy was the first retail carrier of the Stadia Premier bundle.
Oh yeah, yeah. See, here in Canada, I don't think you can get it in stores yet. I
I'm
think
not
the only
sure. I
place you
think
can,
it is in Can. I think it is
is it
in
really?
Canada. Yeah, I think it is in
Everything I've got,
Canada.
everything I've got, I've had to order through Google directly.
Ah, okay, okay. Now, I know it's definitely in the States, but I'm
Mm.
not. Yeah, you know what? You're right. I'm not 100% sure either, but I know Best Buy as a chain
Mhm.
altogether, they were working with Google to sell the Premier bundle. So.
Yeah. So there he is. It's 4 stars. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, John. Hey, John. I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to let the cat out the bag. But yeah, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, John works. A great guy. Check out his content too, dude. It's excellent. Excellent.
Mm.
Really, as far as down the middle analysis,
Yeah.
it doesn't get any better than John as far as like game reviews and stuff like that. And he's a huge Stadia content aficionado and content creator as well.
Right
He
on.
has his own channel, so check 4 Scores Gaming. Check him out.
On my list. It's on my
Hey
list.
John, I didn't want to say anything. You were one of the people that that let me let me on to seeing some of this stuff. So, yeah, man. So I know it got traction. And I know that a lot of people had eyeballs on it. And I hate to to belliger the point, but and I see some comments in the chat, and we're gonna get to more comments later. But people are questioning not only the concept thing. I mean, or not why not promoting it as a concept thing, which I think you've answered. And people can either take it or leave it. But as you could tell, the Stadia community wants to know if you knew this was going to get exposed, why put the Stadia UI in there? What are your thoughts on that question?
3 words. I love Stadia.
Mm-hmm.
I put the Stadia Blade on there or the Stadia UI because that's where I game.
Yeah.
I didn't want to give any traction. Like I knew this was going to ruffle some feathers here and there,
Mm-hmm.
and bring attention to whatever platform I ended up putting on it at the end. It would have been real easy to just put nothing and just put gameplay and let people make their own decisions. But I'm a Stadia gamer. I tell all of my students, I get about 200 students every September. I tell them all about Stadia. I
Oh,
show
that's
them
awesome.
my account
Ooh.
and I log into games.
Wow.
And I like that's where gaming's going. Like it's
Yeah.
foolish. Like music went that way, books have gone that way, TV and movies have gone that way. Why do you think games aren't going to go that way?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's to me, it's just the best place to play. I'm not picking up another console, not since I started playing on Stadia.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was a no brainer. It was just I it's the place that I love to play games. Why would I put anything else on it?
Gotcha.
Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, that was why. I didn't do it to slam anybody. I didn't do it to poke fun of Stadia or anything like
Hmm.
that. If anything, the night that I dropped the video, um, my wife was like, "Man, I wonder if Stadia has gone up in stock price because people have seen this video." And I was like, "If that's
Well,
the case, I'm gonna keep dropping videos."
a the media is so bizarre in that realm
Mm,
that you would have had to make Jesus Christ Superstar with a literal Jesus in there for it to,
yes.
because they were trying. We're going to talk about this too, and that, but this back end section is going to be so fantastic, y'all. I'm telling you, you're going to want to stay tuned for that. But the
Mm,
media was so peculiar about putting any reference to Stadia in there. It was very bizarre. Did
yeah,
you notice that at all?
I did. I did. I noticed some people that had. Man, there was a guy who did a React video, and he
Uh huh.
cut my video off at the end, so it made me play the Stadia thing.
What?
Um, there
That's
were
insane.
people, yeah, there were people that who was it? Somebody said it was EA. The first
Yeah.
couple of people that saw the video
Yeah.
said, "Why is this running on an EA platform?"
Oh wow. Oh, are you
And I was
serious?
like,
Wow.
"You didn't even take the time to read the letters that were on the
Yeah.
screen."
Yeah.
Um, and then what was the other one? There was something else that somebody claimed it was.
It
And
was Gamer Rant. It was Xbox. I don't want to get into that part yet because that's going to be
mm,
so good. I really got to get your thoughts on that. That part is
yeah,
going to be so good. It was Gamer Rant and they said it was Xbox. The community's fully aware of that. We're going to talk about that. But
right.
let me cap off these questions because I really want to get to that section.
Okay.
So, are you familiar with anybody within the Stadia community? Like, are there any content creators that you watch or anybody that you know of?
There hasn't really been any, no.
Okay,
Like I said, like I play most of my gaming on Stadia, if not all.
got you.
The only exception is Minecraft, which isn't on Stadia. And I play that because I've got twin 9-year-olds, and
Got you.
it was that's their heads you see in the leaked footage. I was like, act older. But yeah, no, they are addicted to Minecraft, and
Okay.
so I play with them, and we'll log into games and stuff. But the first game that my daughter rolled credits on was a Stadia game,
Hmm.
and and they play there a little bit, and so I do participate in some other markets, but
Yeah.
um, no, Stadia is my thing, man.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm all about Stadia.
So you okay? So you really so okay? So now that kind of like shed some light on things because when we were doing the town hall, people were curious. This was the question that they had. They said, shouldn't this guy know about the strife? In which this is probably your first time hearing this, but there's a
Oh,
strife within users of Stadia. Some felt like that Stadia was on its way out, but Stadia proved that they've shut that down altogether with their recent
yep.
keynote and stuff like that. But there's a strife with some gamers, not a lot, or not even most, really. So it's fathomable why you wouldn't know about this, but it's more or less held to Twitter. But there's a lot of gamers, or a decent amount of gamers that feel like that the platform is not working to get more games. They're just at a status quo. They've given up. Google's given up on the platform, and there are those of us that are like the complete opposite. They said, "Hey, look, it's a new platform. It's trying to build all this other stuff." So that with what you put out there, with it getting so much popular fanfare, particularly within the
Hmm.
Stadia community, and for the Stadia community to find out that it wasn't a real retail game, some of them feel that you negligently fan the flames within the Stadia community. I mean,
Yeah.
again, we kind of shine like that you really don't follow anybody. But what do you want to say to that notion?
Again, that wasn't my intent at all. As I said, I didn't realize how passionate the Stadia gaming community was. Um,
Hmm.
Up until now, my love affair with Stadia and having to defend it has been a one man show.
Yeah.
I don't have Twitter. I don't do
Hmm.
Facebook. I've got an Instagram and I've got YouTube. That's the only social media I do. And
Okay.
so I haven't been a part of some of these larger conversations that have been going on.
Gotcha.
But I feel like I've had smaller versions of them that that I've had with my students, right? Where I'll show the class, here's Stadia. And some of them are like, yeah, no, that's I'm gonna keep owning my own games, thank
Yeah.
you. And like,
I love that
same
argument.
thing yeah. Man, you were buying nothing on
You
Steam.
don't
You don't
own
own
anything.
nothing.
You're given a
Yeah.
license that you rent until they rip the license. Like we see news articles, Topher, on games getting shut down every day. I think Metal Gear Solid or something. One of the Metal Gear games, the server on that is going down. So I think you're going to lose access on that. You have the license still,
Yeah.
but if they shut it
Well,
down, then there's nothing you can do about it. You own nothing. But I'm
yeah.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. I'm in the same court, man. That is the same stuff, the same discussion I have with my students day in and day out. And in fact, at one point in time, this was before the pandemic and before we were all sent home. I did a demonstration in one of my class, and what I did was it was Destiny 2.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did was I boot up Destiny 2 on Steam, and this was
Mm-hmm.
in the school on a school's computer. I boot up Destiny 2 on Steam. I boot up Destiny 2 using PlayStation Remote Play, so that was logging into my PlayStation account.
Yes.
And then I booted up on Stadia.
Mm-hmm.
And I did this on 3 computers that were next to each other.
Wow.
And I was like, I will even give Steam a head start by
Yeah.
logging in and launching that first. I
Mm-hmm.
will then go to the second platform, which is the remote play, and I'll log into that one. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'll do Stadia last. And Stadia by far was the first one to log in. I
Yep.
was in game running around. The other ones were still trying to connect. I was like, what are you doing? Why would you need to play anywhere else?
Yes. Yes.
I've even had this conversation with developers where
Mm-hmm.
they don't fully understand the technology of Stadia and how it works, and they're saying things like, "Oh yeah, but we don't want the latency," and it's like, man, do you not understand how multiplayer games work?
Yeah.
Like, that's not how this works.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point that I would love to release a game on Stadia. Um, I've been flirting with the idea of continuing to work on this Mandalorian game, knowing that I would never be able to release it, just to have
Mm-hmm.
something a little bit more fleshed out. But the other thing that I've been kind of playing around with a couple of friends is, set up a Patreon and have a game that we make for Stadia and
Yep.
make it a crowdsource game. We're like, okay, these are some of the ideas that we want to put in a game. Have your vote. Who thinks we should do a game like this, or who thinks we should do a game like this, and kind of make the game that a lot of people would want to have. But it's Stadia is a funky business. I don't really know what Google's doing with them.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to the Stadia dev website to register as a developer, there's a lot of questions that nobody else in the industry asks you. And these are
Uh,
things like, so I've been in the industry for 20 years. I've
yeah.
got, God, maybe 30 games under my belt,
Mm-hmm.
but none of them have been games that I've released myself as my studio. They're all places where I've worked in the past.
Exactly. Yeah.
Google doesn't count any of that. So to
Uh-huh.
them, I might as well be my son.
Uh,
And it's like, well, why do you care about all these other like I get that you want, Grand Theft Auto, and you
yeah.
want,
Yeah.
you want these big titles there to draw people in, but why are you going to shove away people that want to make content for your system?
Mm-hmm.
And it's intimidating looking at the form and some of the things that they've got listed there.
Gotcha.
Um, but yeah, no, I have since day one. There is not an hour for me a Stadia office. They do back end programming, so there's not any of the game development there.
Okay.
But man, I would love to start a studio. I've got after 11 years of teaching, I've got thousands of former students that at the drop of a hat would come work for me,
Wow.
um, in order to make something. Just a matter of whether or not we could get it on that platform and uh, get past all of their questions to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. They've in a recent keynote they've actually admitted They said, look,
Yeah.
this process is too cumbersome and we're going to work on that. And then as we segue to the Stadia section, there might be a remedy to that. So we'll talk about that because great minds think alike. I mean, with the talent that we saw on that video, along with your access to the students, and I heard you talking about that, the talent that you have groomed or the people that you just interacted with. I think the Stadia community, whether they're upset with you or not, they would love to see something out of that talent pool. You know what I mean? So we're going to talk about that.
I take it.
So, final two questions before we get out of the tough question section.
All right.
Did it surprise you that you have yet to receive a cease and desist?
So it has. And I'm not gonna lie, I did go probing for one.
Yeah.
I did go and contact some people like, hey, did you see this? Hoping that someone would be like, stop that.
Oh, you got to stop it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was actually greeted with a response I did not expect. I got an email from Lucasfilm Games about not granting me a license. They didn't say stop.
They didn't say stop.
They just said don't release a commercial project. I'm like, so what? I can release it for free? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And they were like, I wasn't getting form letters from them, but
yeah,
the emails that I was getting, they weren't clear in anything that they were saying, and so they were saying like, you can't release a commercial project. And then in the next email, they said we cannot give the license to anyone who isn't making anything closely associated to Star Wars and what we do. I was like, did you see the video? Because it's kind of close to Star Wars.
Yeah.
And again, they were
just
like,
a little bit.
Yeah. And then finally, it came to the point of them saying, we do not take any unsolicited game proposals.
Okay.
And so in order for me to actually officially propose this to Lucasfilm Games as I would like to make this game and purchase the license to do so, I would need to get an agent and officially flesh out a studio. So I'd be out like $1 million before I even got to the please part.
Yeah, please. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so I was kind of like, yeah, that's not an idea. And so I then started reaching out because I've been in the industry as long as I have friends everywhere. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to LinkedIn and let me see who I can get a hold of at Lucasfilm. And so going through LinkedIn, I've got an environment artist that I used to work with once upon a time, who is currently the artist drawing the Vader comic book. I was like, okay, hold on. And so I sent him a message. He's like, yeah, no, I'm on thin ice right now, and they don't like to talk about this, and they don't like to talk about that. Like, okay, don't put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And then I contacted another friend who actually knows a producer there. And I was like, any chance of an introduction? And so the wheels are kind of spinning on that end, but I don't expect anything. I think it's all just going to completely fall away. But I did kind of try to push to get this this cease and desist letter, and even just to get to the point where they would, like, I would be on their radar. But it just didn't seem to get to that point. It just seems like I'm just too small beans for them to care about. Which, it is what it is. I'm a guy in my basement. I don't expect to be a threat to Disney. But it was a little surprising. I think the biggest thing that this led me to, the realization that there probably isn't a real Mandalorian game. And the reason I think that is that if somebody, let's say somebody is working on this, let's say for the sake of argument that Respawn is making a Mandalorian game, okay?
Yep.
If Respawn sees my video and it looks like crap compared to what they're doing, I'm gonna get an email from them saying, dude, stop it, you're making us look bad. And if my game looks better than what they're doing, I'm gonna get an email from them saying, dude, stop it. And I didn't get any emails from anyone.
From anybody.
And so that means nobody is upset, good or bad, with what I did. And that to me is kind of maybe a sign that maybe it's not coming, which that's a
Well,
little pit in
I
my
don't,
stomach, man.
Topher, I don't know. I mean, we've seen. I mean, you would know better than me how important this would play, but we've seen Unreal's the role that the Unreal Engine has played in providing the background for the
Yep.
Mandalorian series. We know that Tim Sweeney, has his, is trying to connect anything that could relate to the gaming part of Epic any way that he can. I wouldn't
Yep.
be surprised if there's something there. I think what it could be now. I often wear a tinfoil hat, so this is your first time on Stadia Dosage, and hopefully we'll have you for more entries. But I often wear a tinfoil hat. And one of my tinfoil thoughts about this is actually the reverse. I
Okay.
think there might be a game out there. Me and my co-host Project Storm, who's in the chat, we've talked about this, and he thinks I'm crazy too. So you're not alone. But my tinfoil hat theory on this is that there is a Mandalorian game out there. However, if they go and put a cease and desist out there, and if there's
I see.
they're admitting to it. What do you think about
They're
that?
admitting to it. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, there's that side of the coin too. Yeah, and that actually never occurred to me that they would
because
be
it's odd.
they'd be
I think
showing their
it's
hand.
odd that you always see Disney, particularly Disney,
Hmm.
Disney, and
Hmm.
who else? They will sue you if you make the wrong a sound that sounds like Star Wars. Normally,
Exactly.
so there might be something
Yeah.
out there. And they just like this damn Topher,
Now,
just let them
now,
be.
granted,
Just let 'em be.
the way that the show is going, when I saw the finale of season 2, I expected that the show was done and it was
Uh huh.
turning into the Book of Boba,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
and I was so disappointed with that. And
Hmm.
I don't know. Now there's all these rumors floating about too that season 3 is going to be the last season, and that they're
Uh.
losing Pedro Pascal to The Last of
Oh.
Us.
Oh. Wow. Oh yeah,
Which
that is right. I forgot.
don't even get me started
Yeah. I
on
know.
that.
Yeah. That's a whole nother podcast. I got you. Yeah. I didn't even think
Yeah.
about that. Wow.
But yeah, apparently they're paying him a lot more than he was making for Star Wars, and they're letting him put his face on screen, which
Which
with
I know
Mandalorian,
that's a big,
yeah.
yeah, that's
And
a
so
big, yeah, that's a big deal.
yeah,
Well,
I'm not ready for a show that I've already played through and seen.
yeah, I'd rather, yeah, if I had to, I mean, nothing against Last of Us, my
Mm.
PlayStation fan, nothing against that, but I'd rather see more Mandalorian. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
Um,
I'm with you on that one.
let's talk Stadia, man. Let's talk some more Stadia. Okay.
Do it.
Now you've been doing this for a while. I don't know your actual years in gamer lineage. I like to boast this all the time. I've been gaming for 35 plus years. You sound around there with me.
Yes, sir.
Uh, um, for the people that don't have the lineage, we talked earlier about how you earlier for the games that you developed for that were on
Mhm.
Xbox Live
Yes.
that you had to go on live and help bolster the online
Mhm.
activity, right?
Yep. Yep.
So for the people without the lineage like you and I, let's talk further about that experience trying to bolster Xbox Live activity. And is that, I mean, that's common, right? When you have a new platform like an Xbox Live or even a Stadia, right?
Sure. For sure.
Um,
Um,
yeah, go ahead,
I think
elaborate on that.
I was gonna say I think Stadia is benefiting from something that Xbox never had,
Okay.
which is cross-platform.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
fact that I can jump into Destiny 2 and play with anybody on any other platform.
Yes.
Xbox didn't have that. You
Have
had to
that.
have the same version of the
Yes.
game in your Xbox and be online at the same time. And so
Yes.
that is definitely something that I think is making it easier for Stadia to grow a community. Is that we're not forced to have just the small collection of us that are online, compared to whatever Sony's got with their over 100 million players playing. It means that we can take advantage of the fact that gamers will play anywhere.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, I think it's an important part cultivating um, that online community, that online service to a point that it draws players in. And this is where things like state share and
Yeah.
eventually once they get the YouTube hot linking in, where you watch a video on a game and you click the button and you're in the game.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, all of that is, I think, going to just keep pushing Stadia further.
Yep. I think that you're going to start seeing that. Like you saw some big moves. Get your thoughts on that. Some big moves where a lot of Twitch streamers, like I forgot the guy's name, Tattoo Man something.
Right.
They brought him over from Twitch,
Mm-hmm.
and are doing a lot of that to bolster up YouTube gaming. I think the apex of this platform is going to be when guys like that say, "Hey, look, you want to play Call of Duty with me? Come on, here goes the link," or press that button and you'll come directly in my game. And you're not going to be able to do that with any other platform on YouTube. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah.
So that's a big deal to me.
I think Stadia's got to get their hands on a battle royale.
Yeah,
I know I know PUBG's there, but and even Player Unknown isn't even with PUBG anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. Yeah, he's left.
Yeah. But not having Fortnite and not having Apex Legends, I think we're losing out a lot to that. I personally have not launched PUBG on Stadia. I've played it once or twice on Steam way back when. But yeah, it's I think they need more of those types of games that just bring in all of these players together. One of the things that stuck out to me about Stadia from the initial release video that they had was that you might see battle royales not with 100 people, but with 1,000
people. Yeah.
And where is that, man? Why don't we have that yet? If you've got the tech to do this, drop it. Let's go. Let me play Fortnite with 1,000 people.
Well, the thing is that I think that was more of an initiative that they were going to build in house. Shout out to Erin, one of my favorite people ever, Erin Hoffman John. She was like their AI specialist or machine learning specialist over there at Stadia. And then when SG&E got dissolved, that affected her position. She's back at Google. Thank goodness they were smart enough to retain her. But that whole aspect of building that game that has 1,000 players in it, it's no longer an internal goal because there's not an internal team to do it. So now it's a game of, okay, we still would like to see this come to fruition, but who on the second party side are we going to get to do this? You know what I mean? There was an interview with a lady named Catherine Hassai. She's a product manager at Stadia with Input Magazine, and she kind of hinted at that. So it'll be very interesting to see if we'll see that come to fruition. So
yeah, for sure.
Yep. Awesome
I've heard rumblings that EA. I mean, they did their Project Atlas demo a ways back, and I was in the beta for that. I wanted to see what it was like.
Okay.
And
what were your thoughts on it?
Well, I don't know. I've heard good and bad about it. One of the good sides is that EA seems to be trying to put all game development in the cloud. So if you make anything in one of their engines under their banner, you don't have to have all this high-end software installed on your computer. You can simply log into the cloud and build remotely that way.
Yep.
And the bad side of that is that it's EA doing it. And so like I mean, that would be really, really cool. There were 3 games I think that launched with their Atlas beta, which was Titanfall 2, which that is a great game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I think there was a FIFA. And was Need for Speed was the other one.
Okay.
And man, I couldn't play any of them. And I had like a high end connection. I had everything that I needed, and just nothing worked for me. And that was 2 years ago, and then I haven't heard anything about it since. I have noticed that EA has been systematically removing Nintendo from its SKUs. When you look at the EA releases, there's only I think it's like 2% of EA games are now on the Switch. They're pulling everything.
Oh wow! Okay.
There was this was I actually loved reading the articles when this happened. When Jedi Knight, not Jedi
Fallen
Knight,
Order.
Fallen Order, when that game got announced for Stadia, all the Nintendo.
Oh yes.
And they were like, "Why would you release on Stadia and not on Nintendo?"
Oh man,
because you have a little tablet that can't do anything.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah,
the game needs processing power, and you ain't got none.
Hey, don't get my co-host Project Storm started in the chat once he hears that, because we have another we work within a network, PNTS network, where we cover all things gaming. Just we specialize in different platforms, and we have a member. Her name is Snow Bunny Gaming. She's a Nintendo aficionado, and those two go back and forth all the time about the lack of power that the Switch has. So it's funny to hear you say that.
Yeah. Well, and I, every time I get a student, and I have tons and tons of students that are like, no, it's Nintendo or nothing. I show them the videos of Stadia running on a Kindle or Stadia running on a fridge.
Oh yeah.
Like,
on a watch.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no. You can keep your little tablet.
Yeah, the versatility is underappreciated, and that's a shame, because we have situations, Topher, where so the game footage wasn't an authentic retail game, right? But when people, even Colin Moriarty, got a hold of that, and they thought maybe it was real, or they wouldn't have posted it. When they thought it was real, they still chose to slice out or crop out the whole thing about Stadia. And now we can talk about the Gamer Rant, where they took your footage and said, oh my gosh, it even looks like it's playing on an Xbox. I mean, what are your thoughts on it? Like, what is going on with the media? I mean, as a developer, someone who has maybe a different inside track on this, why do you think that Stadia is getting such a snuff by the media?
I don't know. I think they're just set in their ways. I think they've been to GDC and they've been to E3 and they've sat with people from these companies, and Google is the new kid on the block, and they're they don't have this repertoire with them. I'm old enough that I saw this exact same thing play out with Xbox when Microsoft came on the scene.
Yep.
And none of the gaming magazines and everything, they were like, it's Microsoft. What do they know about gaming?
Yeah.
And now it turns out they know a lot. And so I'm hopeful that the same thing happens with Google here, that people come around and they realized how valid a gaming platform this is, if not even a more impressive platform than what's out there. I know when it comes to things like PlayStation, when the PS5 was announced, one of the downsides of living up here in Canada is that our dollar isn't as strong as the American dollar, and so when you get a console in the US drop for $600, that's $800 for me.
Yes.
And man, I am not buying an $800 console, let alone one that's had 2 games drop in the last year.
Yeah.
Like everything that's come out for PS5 is on PS4. Why am I buying that console? Never mind the fact that you can't buy them; they're not anywhere.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just a matter of these guys getting buddy with, I know somebody at PlayStation, let me bring them up. And that they don't bother doing that with Stadia. And and like I said, I've got friends in the development community who shrug off Stadia as being something just like a joke, like it's just Google trying to dip their toes in waters they don't belong in. And it's like, well, have you tried it? Like,
have you tried it? Yeah,
it's brilliant. It works fantastically. I've got a Razer Kishi here at the house that I use with my phone.
I love that thing, don't you? I love it.
Like, when I see my kids playing Switch and I pull out the Kishi and put it on my phone, and I can play Destiny, I can play Red Dead. And they've got their little Animal Crossing. It's cute, but it doesn't feel like not real gaming to me, man. I need things with graphics. I am an artist. The side of the industry that I'm most connected to is the visuals, is the how good things look. And so it doesn't make sense to me to play on a platform that doesn't prioritize that. And with Stadia, like that's the whole thing, where they're like, we've got all the video cards here. You just keep doing what you're doing. Open the floodgates, make whatever kind of game you want. That to me is so appealing.
I'm just so Topher. This is where I'm having difficulty trying to grasp this with even you said some of your fellow developers. Like, as a tech enthusiast myself, and we all know that you're one, definitely.
For
and
sure.
your comrades are tech enthusiasts, don't they see that this is pushing the technology forward? This potentially gets their games in more hands. Like, again, I don't have to spend 500-600 or 800-900 Canadian. All I do is buy a $45 dongle, or maybe it's 60 in Canada, and I can play my game and then transfer it to my phone. Like, no,
Yeah.
regardless of the device, I have every version of said game, and
Yep.
that makes it more accessible to the consumer. Like,
For sure.
what do you think? Why do you think you made that connection with Stadia and they haven't?
To be honest, I don't know. I don't know what's going on in their heads. I know I had a conversation with a friend of mine who's been in the industry actually longer than I have,
Yeah.
and he was around and released a game on Xbox 360. It was a release title for the 360, so it was one
Okay.
of the first games come out.
Gotcha.
And we were working on a game when Stadia was about to be announced. And
Mm-hmm.
I asked him, I said, are we going to release this on Stadia? And he said, well, we're in talks with them. And I said,
Okay.
did you released a game on 360 when it came out? And he said, yeah. I said, did you see a boost in sales because you were a release title? He said, absolutely. He said, I could maybe chalk up 25-30%
Yeah.
of our sales to the fact that we were a release title.
Yep.
And I said, and there's a new platform coming, and you're not trying to get on that platform. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand the exclusivity deal anyway.
Yeah.
I don't understand these companies that, like, yeah, no, we're going to release solely on PlayStation. It's like, well, how many copies of that game are you not selling on the other platforms?
On the other platforms, yeah. DLC
that
you're
must
missing out
be,
on, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so it's something that is, I mean, it is like a beaming light, like the sun to me, where, like, how do you can't avoid that. Look at it. It's a big ball of fire. And other developers I know are just ignoring it. Which is baffling to me. I wish I had an answer for you. I wish I knew why they just don't see it as valid. And I wish I knew what it would take for them to
Yeah.
see that validity.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, I'm all about Stadia. I would love to release a game on Stadia. I would love to tell you right now, make an announcement that this is, you are all hearing it for the first time. Here is Game X. I'm gonna make this for Stadia. It's just one of those things that it's so abundantly clear to me that this is where the industry is moving.
Absolutely. Well, in that vein though, Topher, so again, regardless, I mean, we got people on different spectrums of this as far as the masking of it being a retail product and how they feel about that. And maybe this changed how they feel. I know it's impacted me, in a serious degree. It's impacted me. I mean, how can I be mad at a guy that has, what you say, 200 students every semester, and you're introducing them to Stadia, and you said at the drop of a hat, you got up to maybe 1,000 people that could potentially, if all the stars align, would help you create a game. How can I be mad at a guy like that? You know what I mean? Knowing how much I love this platform. So with that said, a lot of people in the chat said this. I don't know if you're aware of this, but they would love to see your talents, put into something that it does come to fruition retail wise. I don't know how familiar you are with the Stadia Makers program.
I'm not very familiar with it.
Okay.
It's definitely something I'm going to look at.
Look it up. Also, our good friend John Scar, he said something in the chat. Oh, I lost it. John, are you still here? Oh, he says, highly recommend reaching out to Kirk Lakes about becoming Stadia dev. So I guess that's somebody at Google, Kirk Lakes. And John, if you can drop a reference to Topher on how to get in contact with Kirk, that would be fantastic. But the Stadia Makers program, what it does is it takes development talent like yours, where you guys may have a concept, may have ideas, students and stuff like that, and they will help fund a game come to fruition after you. I'm not sure how the development concept stuff comes together, but once you get to that point and you present something to them, they'll help you fund the game. There's a lot of games that they've helped fund. Grime, Came through the Stadia Makers program. There's a bunch of different games, and then they've even had a Stadia game jam where they worked with, I forgot what who the group was, but a bunch of students worked on games, and they helped and they selected winners, and now those games are going to be coming to Stadia, and they're going to help fund them. So
Beautiful.
some stuff that you should definitely look at.
Yeah, I'm taking a look here. Canada's also got. I live in Ontario, and
Okay.
and we've got a lot of. They're very big on supporting small business here, and so we get a lot of digital media fund and all kinds of backing from the government here.
That's awesome.
In order to set up a studio to the point that you can make things, and so
Yeah.
there's definitely avenues there. I think if I'm going to go down that road of making something, I'm going to need to set up some kind of an interface to converse with the community.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I would love to crowdsource the type of game that I make.
Yes.
And pull ideas in and maybe even do things like contest of characters named after you and stuff like that.
I'd be a supporter. I'm saying it live on air. I'd support.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing, man. That's the kind of thing that would make people appreciate a game a little bit more if they had a hand in it.
Absolutely. So we're going to close out with this. Any a few questions here, and then we'll close out, and I guess we'll take some questions if you still have time.
Sure.
Frankly, any regrets? Any regrets on what you've done or how you've done it? Or the feelings that may be out there in regards to some of the people that are upset with it not being a real game. Do you have any regrets at all?
I don't regret anything. I did it to further my online presence, and it has done that. I do feel bad that people were hurt by it or feel let down by it. And it's funny. I seem to be one of those people where when all is said and done, I still don't have a Mandalorian game. And that's I get it. I can understand why people are kind of bummed. It's that dangling carrot in front of them that they thought this was real.
Yeah.
And I think that's just the biggest point of this was that I never in a million years would have expected that this many people would have believed that something I put together in 4 months would have been believed as being a retail game that people were working on.
Yep. And as it. Oh,
yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say that's been the biggest pat on the back for me. Seeing my views go up, and I'm at 155,000 views on that video. And there's people still watching it. I thought as soon as I drop the explanation video and tell everybody it's fake, that it's just that it'll disappear.
It would stop.
But I think it's lovely, the response that people have had, and even the negative response is it's passion that you're seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't do anything on the internet without somebody getting pissed off.
Yeah.
But I see this as a good kind of pissed off. I see this as passionate fans, feeling like they had something tangible and feeling like I ripped it from them. And so I don't dismiss the anger that some people have towards me. It's warranted. I did something dishonest, and I did it for my own selfish reasons. But I did it again because I love Star Wars and because I love Stadia, and I love making games. That's why I did this. Games are kind of every part of my life.
Well, you don't get any more honest than that. I mean, that's flat out honesty in regards to, hey, look, trying to build the viewership and that stuff. And what I gather from that as well is that, it was not your intention, nor because you're not into the normal mix of what's going on with the Stadia community, but it wasn't your intention to again, break hearts the way that some hearts may have been. Yeah, exactly.
And like I said, if anything, this has pushed me even further to go make a game for Stadia.
Gotcha.
As kind of my penance, I will go. Well, there. That's it. We'll call the game penance.
Yeah. Well, next we go hard in the chat says regrets. This is a blessing in disguise. I mean, again, the work is impressive. I remember watching your video. I was impressed, and I said, you know what? I always like to, I didn't know for sure how this would handle itself, but I always know that it's good to get past the meme of people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As someone who's been in the Fortune 500 world for 2 decades, I've had to work and collaborate with a team of people from all walks of life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of them always hate you because you're the boss. You know what I mean? So, and there's ones that try to brown nose you. Hey, Mr. MM2K, don't talk to Shirley because Shirley's a thief. So you always got to get past the meme. And I would have other managers do that to me. Yeah, well, you're going to be going over this group and they're a bunch of, jerks and all this other stuff. So it's always good to have these discussions, people, and get past the meme so you can really know what's going on. At the end of this, the tail end of this, if Topher gets a group of people together with the talent that we saw on display and they put a game out for Stadia, that's a win to me. You know what I mean? So definitely. This might be a little bit early before we get to questions, but again, in light of all this, in light of this discussion, do you know what's next for Mr. Turner in light of all these events?
Well, I have spent the last week preparing for my semester. September is upon us, and I'm about to start teaching again a whole new group of kids. I'm going to be introducing some to video game development for the first time, and a whole bunch that have been doing it for a year, if not more. And so, yeah, I'm looking to make sure that they get on the right path. I've been telling my students a lot that that I teach out of selfish reasons. I need them to make the best games possible because I want to play good games.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys make shitty games, then I'm stuck playing shitty games, and so I got to do a good job teaching you guys how to make this stuff.
Yeah.
I do. I make games. I don't know if you saw this or not, but I make every semester for my character class because that is what I did primarily in the industry was character work.
Mm-hmm.
My character class gets special treatment, and
Okay.
I make every week, every week one of the program, the students play a game that I made, and that game is to figure out what character they're going to be working on for the semester. It started off with let's see, it was Injustice 2. I used to do some Call of Duty characters, some soldiers and stuff like that. And then Injustice 2 landed, and that really picked up. And I said, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna play. We're gonna make characters for Injustice 2. We're gonna make Marvel characters that fit within that DC universe.
Oh, okay.
And so I made a roulette wheel. I gave students the ability to drop the marble in the roulette wheel, and it would pick a Marvel character for them, and that's who they were making for the semester. Toronto is a very multicultural city. We have people from all over. We have 30% of our students are international students, and so
awesome.
we have a lot of people that look different and have different backgrounds.
Yep.
And Marvel doesn't. So I was encouraging my students. I said, "Listen, we're going to make these characters. I would love for you guys to put your own ethnic spin on them. Give me a black Captain America.
Yep.
Give me a Sikh Iron Fist. Give me a Korean Black Hat. Give me these characters." And not a single, well, okay, one single student did it. None of the other students, out of all the students I had, only one student changed the ethnicity of her character.
Oh, wow.
And that student had gotten Kamala Khan.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, and if you hadn't guessed it, this was a white student. And I was like, you can't be serious.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't tell the white kid no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I guess if you want, you could make her white, but do you really think that's a good idea? And so she did. And so the next year, it was like, I'm not stepping on that landmine again. We got rid of Injustice 2, and I was like, okay, what I need is a game where being multicultural is a benefit. And so the next year we did Overwatch characters. And so I made a plinko board, and the kids would put a little
Okay, I
chit
got
in
you.
that would bounce all the way down, and it would pick a new country and a new class for them. And that I was like, okay, look here, you're getting a Scottish tank. That's what you have to make. And so the students would have to research each of these nations that I'd picked out and stuff like that. And then I got tired of working on that one, and I made the most recent one was last year, which was I called Cabin in the Woods.
Okay.
And this was a basement with a kid wandering around, and essentially whatever item the student picked up, that item was tied to a creature, and that's what they were going to have to make. So for instance, there was a um, um, what would I do? There was a brain, just a disembodied brain, and if you picked that up, you were doing a zombie. There was like a clove of garlic, and if you picked that up, you were doing a werewolf. So there was all these like things tied to creatures. Um, and then this year, I made one in 3 days, which after because I was working on the Mandalorian, and I was like, I want to get this done, but I have to do the schoolwork first. I made a claw machine, and I've dropped some video of that on my channel.
Oh, okay.
Um, and it's essentially I put a bunch of balls in the claw machine, and each ball has a different movie or TV franchise on it. So there's Ghostbusters and Star Wars and the Terminator and Game of Thrones and everything I could think of that was popular. And the students are going to have to pick up a ball and make a character from that franchise.
Wow. Okay.
Um,
Okay.
when I did the creatures and I did Mandalorian as my demo piece, there was a lot of students that had green eyes of envy, and they were like, "Man, you get to do something really cool, and we're stuck making a freaking werewolf." And it was like, "Yeah, no, I get you, I get you." And so yeah, so for this year, I'm going to open up the floodgates and let them do some pop culture stuff.
So,
And so yeah, and so I've been making games like that for the students for a long time, as part of like keep them engaged and trying to keep the students interested in what we're doing in class and what have you. And so yeah, and so I dropped a video of that, and now that I'm done with Mandalorian, I now have to with September start a new character.
yeah.
Um, had I done this instead of August when I did,
Hmm.
the character I made in September would have been Bo-Katan, and
Uh,
Mandalorian would have been split screen.
okay.
Uh,
Wow. Oh, yeah.
yeah,
No, yeah. Yeah.
which yeah. There's just I have twins. My kids are twins, and it pisses me off how no games are split screen anymore.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I always told my kids, whatever game Daddy makes, it's gonna be split screen. And so yeah, I was like, yeah, I'll make Bo-Katan, I'll drop her in, and then we'll have two Mandalorians running around.
Oh yeah, that would have been yeah, that would well, you know what? By then the Stadia games argument would have probably died down because Stadia is known, if you used last year as a barometer, Stadia is known to really turn it up in fourth quarter. So by
Yeah,
then, had this came out, they would have been like, "Oh, on top of everything else, is a Mandalorian game too, woohoo!" And it probably wouldn't have been that ire. So I don't know, maybe a November release wouldn't have had so many sour faces behind it, but who knows? Who
yeah,
knows?
yeah. I see. RJ has asked if I have any
Yes,
information about the pro revenue.
yes.
Um, I've heard conflicting things. I have no firsthand knowledge
Okay.
of the pro revenue model,
Hmm.
but I have heard conflicting descriptions of it from friends who are working on things.
Okay.
Where it seems like the bigger the company you are, the more they are offering you.
Okay.
And so little Joe Bob in his garage who makes a game by himself and gets it on Stadia doesn't get the same price tag attached to it as say Darksiders 2 dropping.
Hmm.
um, which they get a bigger chunk of that pie. Because of that, I can't see it attracting a lot of devs there.
Hmm.
Um, but I think there's a good side to this, which is what they want is they want the big developers. They want the rock stars and the EA and the Ubisoft. They need
Yeah.
these big companies there to have the big games there.
Hmm.
And once those big games are there, then the little guy can come in. And the problem with the little guy coming in first is that you end up with a platform that's just full of crap. And you see this,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? There's so much crap on Steam that it's hard to
Yeah.
find a decent game unless you already know what it is. And
Hmm.
so, um, And so yeah, so I see it as being good the way that they're moving right now in that
Mhm.
they are absolutely trying to lure in the big fish, and
Yep.
once they're a big fish, you'll get the little feeder fish coming with them.
Gotcha. Gotcha. There's a lot of ire too about 2K not, we
Yep.
haven't heard about Mafia games that were supposed to come. NBA
hmm
2K is nowhere in sight. We don't know if they're coming later or what.
Yep.
And that's kind of like kicked off the angst that's going on in the community so far. Well, you have any thoughts on that?
I don't know. I wish I knew what was going on with a lot of these companies, and I don't know. I have a master's in business,
Mm-hmm.
and when I look at some of these companies that see a platform like Stadia that it's essentially just free money. Like these are
Yeah.
games that you've already built,
Yes.
and you're choosing not to. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like you want
Yeah.
money. Here are
Mm-hmm.
people going to give you money, and you're
Yep.
like, no, thank you.
No, thank
I
you.
what? I don't understand it. And so, yeah,
I don't know.
I
I
think
don't know.
I think that time is coming though. Like we've got a Red Dead, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt. I've heard rumblings of a what was it, Liberty City, Grand Theft Auto 3,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
a,
Yep.
a trilogy coming.
Yep.
It wouldn't surprise me that Grand Theft Auto 6, which is going to be the next Rockstar game, it wouldn't surprise me that that drops on Stadia day one.
Yep.
That they've already kind of got a working reputation there. Ubisoft is all in.
Mm-hmm.
Ubisoft loves the platform, and so getting our Far Cry 6 and all of these games when they drop as well is just going to be icing on the cake. And so the more we get that, I think the more the platform will just gain legitimacy the way Xbox did.
Yeah. No. Again, I think it was very important. I think one of the most important parts of our Stadia discussion was, hey, look, guys. Back in the day when Xbox Live first came out, I had to go and help bolster activity on there because when you're a new platform, that's one of the struggles that you have. Now you compound that with the fact that now everything is online, where everything
Yeah.
wasn't online back then, and you still had to do that. So
Yeah.
imagine having to do that. Imagine if Xbox Live came out now, it would be a lot more difficult. You know what I mean?
Oh, for
So
sure. Well, and you
yeah,
look, I mean, Stadia's encountering that.
yes,
And it's what, as rough as Stadia and the Stadia community has had things, at
hmm
least we're not Luna.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. What are your
That's
thoughts on that? Yeah, I mean, because
uh,
I hear the shout out to my good friend David Jaffe. David, he there's a group that I work with, and he
mhm,
came on our shows. And David, David is very, he doesn't mince words, right?
yeah, yeah.
So in talking to David, he really he's one of those that spills that rhetoric. I don't understand the Stadia business model. Luna makes more sense to me. And I'm like, and I'll converse with him, and I'll say, David, like, what you, David, you've been selling games on the Stadia business model for decades. You know what I mean? Like the Stadia business model is the normal console model coupled with other things. But what are your thoughts on Luna and any of that I just babbled about?
I haven't had the opportunity to play Luna. It wasn't released in Canada.
That is right.
I did
Yes.
try. I did try to get in on the beta when it launched, but
Uh huh.
being up here in the Great White North, we just didn't have access to it, and so
Yeah.
I have zero opinion.
Okay.
I'm not. I know it's got a small following right now, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
harmful to any business.
Yeah.
But I want them to do well.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the end of consoles. Like I said, I'm
Yeah.
I'm done paying $800 for two or
Yes.
three exclusives.
Oh,
Like,
I'm done with downloads. I'm done with downloads.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I,
yep.
my wife, happy life, right? So
You got
my
it. You got
wife,
it.
when she comes home, I work from home, and I've been fortunate and enough to do that. But when
For
she
sure.
comes home, she wants me to shut everything down and listen to how she hates the people that she works with, right? So
Mm,
I used to do that, and I would just go, "Yes, you're right. Yeah, honey. Oh, they did that to you. Oh, shame on them."
mm, mm.
And I would have to actually engage in the conversation with her because I couldn't take my controller and my box out of my man cave and take it downstairs. With Stadia, I don't have to worry about that. I just
Yeah.
transfer the game. I'm home. Okay, here I come, honey. Boop boop, and then send it to my TV downstairs. No downloads, none of that. I mean, I don't get. It's. I don't know. I know I sound like a broken record, but it's just so convenient for me and others like me.
Yeah, the biggest excuse I've heard from people is the bandwidth, is the like the
Yeah.
internet
Oh, they
speed
love to run
is
with that
like-
one. Yeah. They love
and I was like, man, I went to Starbucks and played on their network on my phone. I was like, you're telling me your Wi-Fi is worse than Starbucks?
it. Exactly.
Like, you have problems beyond what gaming. Like you can't play PlayStation if your Wi-Fi is that terrible.
Exactly.
Um,
Yep.
And I get the argument a lot from students about the yeah, but then I got to be online all the time. I was like, well, okay, you have a
Yeah,
phone
exactly.
in your pocket. Like,
Yes.
do you turn off your internet when you put your phone in your pocket?
Exactly.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
And so yeah, none of the arguments make any sense to me. And I will continue to show off Stadia in every class that I teach. And I've got one former student. He was a student of mine about seven years ago or so, who's now a developer and he's working on film and stuff like that. That I talked him into Stadia, and he is all in. And he's like, yeah, I've converted half my buddies now. We all play on Stadia.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, that's it. Keep spreading the word.
Yep. I mean, people want Google to be more active in promoting Stadia. But the media has done such a wonderful job in tainting anything that they say out of their mouth. And I've talked to some prominent podcasters where I tell them, look, listen to this from Google or go to stadiasource.com or go to Stadia. Check out my channel, Stadia Dosage. And someone said, no. Why do I have to go to anything that has Stadia in the name in order to trust this device or trust this platform? And I'm like,
where's IGN?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it all falls back on what you said. They have prior relationships. They get that swag. They get those free codes. They get that stuff that Stadia really they don't have. They don't have the bargaining chips. As I steal an adage from Dave Chappelle from one of his skits. They don't have any bargaining chips like how Sony has. Sony can show up with 3 PlayStation 5s and your soul is theirs. You know what I mean? So. But it's just but you know what? It's our kids. It's your kids, your twins. Topher, my son who's 15 now, got his own job. When they become of age and they start buying their own damn games, they don't care about consoles. They don't care about console war. They're the ones that are going to flip the switch, I believe. What are your thoughts on that?
Yep. There was a question about porting that someone is asking.
Yeah, I don't see.
And I think the question was, what do I know? Do you know the process of porting over a game?
Okay.
I know that some people that have done it have had a really hard time with it. I think out of the gate, Stadia was not very developer friendly in how it was doing a lot of what it was doing. But I've also heard that in the last year that has changed and they've made it incredibly easy for people to port over.
Yep.
I have worked on ports in my career. We ported an Xbox game, the original Xbox, to the PS2, and oh my god, that was it was like rebuilding a whole new game.
Oh, wow.
The PlayStation has definitely changed the way that they're doing things now, and that it's you build one game. And you essentially say, okay, ship to Steam and PlayStation and Xbox, and it just goes to everywhere where you want it to go. Nintendo is a little bit different because of the constrictions of that console and some of the things that it just isn't able to do.
Yep.
But as I understand it, shipping a game for PC is the same as shipping a game for Stadia. So if you can release it for Steam, you can release it for Stadia. It's just a matter of having the UI work the way that it's supposed to. There's a lot of really clever things that Stadia does. If you haven't seen this before, things like if you play in a PC and all your UI is mouse and keyboard UI until you touch anything on a controller.
Yes.
And then on the fly, the UI changes.
It just switches over.
Yeah, and it isn't even just the Stadia controller. If you're using an Xbox controller in your PC, it switches the UI to the Xbox controller. Everything just switches on the fly.
Yep.
And that's not something you have to do for any other console. You know, if you're
Yeah.
playing on a PlayStation, they know you've got a DualShock, and so they don't need to tweak it in that way. And so there's a few little things like that that need to happen for porting over. But other than that, I think it's pretty light, especially as we start getting more and more towards cross-platform gaming, and there just being, you know, one version of a game that you play on the console you have or don't
Um,
have.
Final question before we go and check out any other questions and then we wrap up.
All right,
So I don't know. You're not on Twitter,
I am not.
but there's a lot of hoopla right now on Twitter because one of our fine community members. And what I got to do, Topher, is I'm not going to suggest that you get on Twitter because it's a black hole there. It'll suck your life in. So you're a smart man for not going there. But I'm going to get you a list of some great content creators along with us that you should listen to and check out their content, man. I think you'll really enjoy it. Jim Bear Gaming or Jim Stadia, he's one of them, and he's actually a mod on the Discord. He did a video earlier today talking about Ark. We know Ark released on the platform yesterday, right? And it wasn't in the greatest shape when it released.
No, sir.
However, he found a way to lift the frames cap, to increase the visuals, the textures, all that stuff, and it brought up a question which a lot of people in the community now are angry about. Because it runs fine. He has the game running at 60 frames per second. It looks beautiful. And it was like, this is what the developers originally said, that the game would be able to run on PC settings. So it beckons the question, because I look at other games that we feel like should run better. Why? How should I phrase this question? What are your thoughts, or why would a developer cap a game's performance to what you see with Ark if it could perform so much better? Is there some type of incentive developer wise for that?
I know that on the art side of things, I've had this conversation at studios before where I've both worked and where I've contracted and consulted. Usually the conversation is built around Nintendo. Nintendo always their business model is always centered around the experience of playing the game and not the quality of the game itself. So they don't care how many polygons or how high resolution the game is, just, you know, if you have something in your hand that you're shaking about. Whereas everything else, they want you to see the visual quality of things. You know, Nintendo's never going to talk about ray tracing, but everywhere else they will talk about ray tracing. So working on a game at some studios in the past, or working as a consultant or a contractor on games that are going to be released on multiple platforms, which include the Nintendo, means that you have to make a decision as to whether you tank the quality of your game altogether across all platforms so that your game looks the same everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
or if you make it look as good as each platform can run it.
Mm.
And that's a really hard question to answer, because
Yeah.
if you tank the quality of your game, you piss off the higher end gamers. You piss off your
Yeah.
PC gamers and your PS4 gamers, and for us, the Stadia gamers, right? Where
Yep.
like we know Stadia can do it, why isn't it doing it?
Yeah.
And what you make happy is the Nintendo crowd.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
I've known a lot of developers that have fought tooth and nail to get their game on a Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I've been in the industry about 20 years or so. I just last year released my first Nintendo game. I've never put anything on a Nintendo system before. And being that I was such an NES gamer way back in the day, like I had a real nerd moment of like, oh my God, I made a Nintendo game. But it was definitely one of those things that we had to choose the overall quality of the game, or, you know, make it look bad on this one platform that we're trying to impress. And so we ended up tanking the quality of one of the games that we did in order to make sure that it ran on every console. And so that meant, you know, it had a worse frame rate on running on an Xbox One than it did on a Nintendo.
Yep.
But the game looked the way the game looked. And it wasn't like we were capping it down at 15 frames. Like we capped it at 30. And so, you know, it's still running the way it's supposed to run. But yeah, there's a lot of questions within Stadia about why You know, if we're given all of this, unlimited GPUs in a warehouse somewhere,
Yeah.
you know, why is my game not running at 120 frames a second?
Hmm.
What's going on?
Yep.
And then honestly, I don't know why some studios choose that kind of decision, and so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I don't understand. I don't get the why you would do that to something.
My
Um,
tinfoil hat theory on that is with Doom. I don't want to get any. You don't
mhm,
have to respond to this, but just for people that are not aware, I just found it peculiar that at launch, I mean not at launch, but at GDC and somewhere, they
yep.
were emphatic. People at Bethesda and Ed Software, they were emphatic. Oh, you're going to see this in native 4K, and then when it released, it was in an upscale 1800p, which still
Yeah.
looked fantastic, but it happened to be comparable to what was happening on
Everywhere else.
Xbox. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you know what I'm saying. So yeah, it's a lot of. I do want to respond to that though. Jim does say, and again, this is why I say stay out of the black hole, Topher
Yeah.
of Twitter. He had to
You know
say,
what? Yeah.
I understand your anger and disappointment talking to the community. I'm upset too, but please, regarding Ark Survival stuff, please stop harassing the Stadia community/social team. Reach out to Ark devs instead. That should be common sense. So anybody that's listening here, I don't condone that weirdo behavior. I just want to. Jim is 1,000% right. If you got an issue with Ark, talk to the Ark developers and do it in decency and order. You ain't got to harass people. Come on now. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Topher. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I would love to see Ark run a little bit better.
Yeah,
I played it last night. Man, the first of every month is like Christmas.
yeah, yeah.
Uh yeah, and I try to try to stay away from the announcements about what the free games are so that it is more like Christmas morning, and I log into Stadia and like, ooh, let's see what we get. Let's see what we get. And I saw Ark, and I was like, right on, man. I played PixArk with my kids, and never really got into it. And then yeah, I played a couple hours last night, and it really was just kind of frustrating the way that it was laid out and the way that it was running.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna send you
Um,
Topher. I'm gonna send you
yeah,
Jim's video.
all right,
The difference is amazing. It really
beautiful.
yeah. I'm not even into art, but I'm gonna play it now after seeing this video. You know what I mean? So I'm
Mm,
gonna send it to you.
I love it. I'll take a
All
look.
right. With that said, I don't think we have any more questions. I was asking. Project Storm brought up something about ray trace. He says CRT is a hot topic. I don't know if he's
Hmm.
saying that it's a hot topic today on Twitter. I really haven't been on Twitter. But what are your thoughts on ray tracing? I mean, again, I know you said your information is limited on this stuff, but we did have
So
another developer, Mantis
yeah,
Games,
my
on here.
understanding is that there is no ray tracing on Stadia right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I have been, and I was cognizant of this when I did the Mandalorian video.
Gotcha.
In that I'm running a computer that does allow for ray tracing, and I turned it off to make it look like it actually was on Stadia. And so yeah,
Ah,
so there was no ray tracing in the Mando. I'm
smart
I'm doing a
man.
bunch of other things to make it look like there is ray tracing.
Yep.
But yeah, so I understand it. We're not at the point where we got ray tracing yet. And I think it's because of what they're doing with the video cards that they've got in the warehouse, wherever they call Stadia. Um, that they're not the right RTX
Okay.
model numbers that support it yet, and so it's like we're using a bunch of RTX 1080 cards or NVIDIA 1080 cards or something like
Yeah.
that,
Yep.
and they haven't gone to GTX cards, but I imagine as they keep updating things, and I see Stadia as being an organic process where they're just going to keep adding more and more and more to it. So I think as we start adding, they just announced the 40 series video cards coming.
Yep.
I think once we start getting into that realm of things and whatnot running in the background of Stadia, that we're going to see ray tracing coming. I think it fits though when you look at a lot of the games that are coming to Stadia. Um, we kind of feel like the mom and pop rental shop down the street. Where all the new games come to Sony, come to Xbox, and we get a game that's 5 years old that's now available on Stadia. And I
Yeah.
want I want the day one games. You're dropping it everywhere else. Day one, drop it on Stadia. Day one too.
I agree. And as far as ray tracing is concerned, I know we've talked a lot here about the Kronos Group, the software-based ray tracing, which could come to the platform. I think they even said that they would cover the AMD APUs or GPU, whatever they're using in the server blades, that they would cover the GPUs in the Stadia server blades. So it's just, and then we had the course developers who said, yeah, we've seen a version of that software-based ray tracing being active on the platform. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, and now we've got Unreal 5 starting to muddy the waters here about how game development's going to work. For anyone who's not really aware of how revolutionary this is going to be to games, since the release of the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3, video games have used what's called normal mapping. This is an image that changes the way that a surface looks, makes it look more detailed than it is. And you put this on a low poly object in order to give it higher frequency detail. So think of seeing pores on the skin of a character.
Okay.
With Unreal 5, that method of working is gone for anything that doesn't need to deform. So characters are kind of out of the loop for this, but Mando's helmet would be. That means that there is no low poly modeling anymore. With Unreal 5, you just take the high res. So this means that if you are making a Mandalorian game and you are working in conjunction with the show, you can just take the digital double, the actor that they have, and put that directly in your game, and it'll run just like a low poly model would.
Awesome.
And so this is going to change game development fundamentally. It's just being involved with the schools and how we're teaching things. Like it's throw out the curriculum and start over again. And so I imagine once we start seeing some games from that running on Stadia, we're going to see a huge jump in quality too. I'm guessing it won't be long before the. I mean, it's still in beta right now, but I'm guessing that we'll see. I think Fortnite will be the first game to get ported over to UE5, and we'll start seeing some really interesting things. If you haven't seen any of the tech, I would urge you to go take a look at it on YouTube. Just look up UE5.
I saw that demo, and then I was trying to download too. You could play part of that demo. My PC just wasn't there yet.
I've got it running on mine, and awesome. I built my computer a year ago, and it runs beautifully. The engine isn't there yet. I did try to port Mando over to UE5, and I lost half of my frame rate when I did that.
Oh wow! Okay.
And so I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'll keep it in UE4. But yeah, it's running at about 120 FPS in UE4. And
cool. Okay.
Oh yeah, no, she flies, man. She flies.
Awesome.
Which is probably because I'm doing nothing the right way.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. Well, nonetheless, you've impressed many of us. I think you've done a great job explaining your part of it, and some people will accept it, some people won't. But at the end of the day, I did want to show you this. We ran a poll, and the poll asked, if it pops up, it says, "Do you want to see Topher and a group create a game for Stadia?" And out of 32 votes, 93% said yes. Only 6% said no. So
crazy.
I mean,
that's good.
It worked. And look, I get it. And I've talked to a lot of my content creator friends and stuff behind the scenes. And yes, they, I think it was compounded. Their ire was compounded by a lot of the gibberish that we got to deal with within the community, outside of the community. And I don't think you were trying to overshadow that. What I've done a little bit differently, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I would have done it as a concept art, but I know more. I'm a content creator. I know how to.
You're part of that world.
I'm part of that world. So I would know how to say this is concept art and who to go to get that out there. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where I can see now in our conversation, you wouldn't have that access. So you were trying to do something that you didn't feel would cause the ire that it did.
I genuinely had no idea I was going to get this strong of a reaction from anyone, good or bad.
Yeah. However, I mean, again, it's up to the individual. They may take that, they may not, and it's up to them. It's no, no foul. It's up for them to decide however they want to digest this. But at the end of the day, I think that you do have a lot of people that are impressed, and you do have a lot of people that will appreciate you going further with this in some shape, form, or fashion. You even see it in the chat. They said they would fund it, and we appreciate your honesty at the very least. You know what I mean? So
excellent. Well, I'm glad.
Thank you for coming, man.
Hey, I'm glad to have had this opportunity to talk to you, and so thanks for reaching out, man.
Yeah. Sean Christopher said in the chat, "Who the hell voted no?" Somebody that's probably angry at me, Sean. I thought it would maybe you, but who knows? Who knows? I'm used to it. I get abuse here. I get abuse at home. I'm used to it.
Right on.
So Topher, I don't want to put you on the spot right here, but if anybody does want to reach out to you, you're welcoming to that still, or are you trying to hide out a little bit? What's going on?
No. I'm always welcome. I will take all the criticism that comes my way.
Okay.
I see that as being part of, I chose to be an artist, and when you're an artist, not everybody's going to like the art you make, and so it's something that I welcome, good or bad. I've made sure on my YouTube channel in the about section to include my email address, and so
okay, there you go.
You are welcome to reach out.
I'm going to leave a link in the comment section, in the description, to both, to Topher, or are you okay with people reaching out to you via Stadia, or no, just send you an email?
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave information to that. If you want to let Topher know, hey, look, man, I'm with you, brother, or Topher, the hell with you, whatever you want to let him know. You'll have his. No, don't do that. He's a great guy. He's a great guy. I'm not mad at him, and I also think that, things happen for a reason, and things don't always happen in the smoothest fashion. However, if there's a greater good that can be served here, I'm all for it. And like I said, Topher, if you create something, man, I'll support it. You know what I mean? So
I appreciate it. I'll be sure to let you know just as soon as I get something in the works.
Please do, and we'll bring you back. As you can see, you already got an audience that'll appreciate to get some updates, man. So
for sure,
please come back. All right,
excellent.
Well, with that said, folks, that's it for today's special show. We ran well over 5 o'clock. I know Topher got stuff to do. But with that said, thank you so much. And if you want to support us and check out our content even more, go to pntsnetwork.com. I do have to warn everybody, we are getting the major facelift. It's coming at the beginning of the week. May be Monday, may not be Monday. So the site will be down for a few days to transition everything over. But check out all of our content creators. Check out all of our shows. We try to put our heart and soul into this passion of gaming of ours. And with that said, thank you very much, everybody, for coming through. Thank you so much for your support. Love each and every one of you. And you know, as the moniker goes, have a wonderful, wonderful gaming day. Peace. All right, man. Awesome.